Welcome to the Parkinson Solution Summit 2.0. I'm your host, Dr. Ken Sharlin. Today's interview is with Ben Tameta. Ben is an electrical engineer. He is a homesteader. He's currently talking to us from Costa Rica, Central America. He is the creator of H2 Genesis molecular hydrogen generators. And he's found that hydrogen therapy helps people with aging, so reversing the aging process, and maybe a great tool to help those with Parkinson's. So I'm really looking forward to learning more about molecular hydrogen and how it can be utilized to really change the trajectory of our health. Ben, thank you so much for joining the Parkinson Solutions Summit.
Yeah, it's great to be here and be a part of the summit and to share what knowledge we've gained here with regards to molecular hydrogen.
Well, what is molecular hydrogen and how did you get into molecular hydrogen therapy?
Yeah, so molecular hydrogen therapy, it's the production of gas usually that is infused into water for drinking, dissolving the gas into water for drinking, and also for breathing through a cannula. People have seen are synonymous with oxygen, they call it, where a cannula sits in your nose. So there's devices that treat the water, you drink the water, and also use the cannula for inhaling the hydrogen. And so, yeah, long story short, I mean, I'm not a doctor, I'm an electrical engineer, so a scientist. So I come from this from a different point of view. And I've studied natural health just on my own as an enthusiast for 30 something years right now. And so my main goal in the beginning was increasing the health span, you would say, right? And so I would sometimes lurk in say longevity forums and alternative health forums where we would discuss the latest research papers coming out to see if there's this miracle thing coming out that's going to make us live forever, right? And so it was that kind of forum, and it's how I got into this at the time. Of what sparked my curiosity was there was this one kind of inert, really obscure molecule that was kind of expensive but still available. And people were getting results with it. And so results in general, when we're talking about anti-aging and longevity, we're talking about overall, good health, more energy, strength, better sleep, a sharper mind, faster healing, reduced aches and pains, and just feeling more youthful in general. All those things you would consider, more youthful, right? That's what we're after. And so some of us started taking this molecule based on some of these, actually rat studies we did. It was inert, so it was not something safely we could do actually. Long story short, we started getting results wow, this is really, working. So, but being an engineer and scientist, I want to know, well, what's the working mechanism? Why is this working? Why are we seeing the results? Because I want to understand it, take apart things. Well, how does it work? Right. And so as I dug more into the research, it turns out from, my own research, right, that this molecule is actually acting as a transport mechanism for hydrogen. And I'm like, well, if it can do that, and that's what's doing it, so then maybe we just skip this molecule and just look at hydrogen. How is hydrogen affecting the body? What's it doing in the body, right? And so that's the direction we went into, and so we can get into some of the personal experiences I had, from there, right? And so as we focus in on hydrogen, you say, well, this is working, right? But at the time, there were some small little electrolyzers that would bubble the minute amounts of hydrogen into the water when you would drink it. And so those were out there, really expensive at the time. This was many, many years ago. And so I tried one of those and no results whatsoever. So I'm like, man, something's not working here. And then, some more papers came out, but maybe there's a effective threshold or minimum amount that you need of hydrogen and just to feel the effects we were getting. And so there were some really expensive machines. I mean, the hydrogen therapy was almost born out of in Asia, in Japan and China. They were ahead and still way ahead in this marketplace as compared to other parts of the world. And so I was finding companies and research over there that were, had some luck in treating patients, with the hydrogen gas. And some of those machines were, crazy expensive at the time. So as an electrical engineer, it's I was already had a device or electrolyzer that I had put into the car, and the car was running more efficiently on the hydrogen, using the additional or excess energy to put into hydrogen, and that's plumbed back into the engine, so the engine would run more efficiently. So I'm I understand the technology and how electrolyzers work to make hydrogen, oxygen gas. And
Hmm.
so that gave me the I guess the inspiration and the confidence that I can do something like that. And so I
Oh.
began tinkering, ordering parts and pieces, and eventually I came up with something that I felt was, safe. So I began breathing the hydrogen myself. And
Hmm.
yeah, lo and behold, I mean, long story short, I started getting some of the same results that we got early on with this other, treatment, this other molecule. And and so that's when I started, sharing with friends and family and other people that in my community that were into longevity and just so it was biohacking, we call it, right? And and that's when they started asking, well, hey, if you're getting those results working for you, like, I want to try it. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to share my, machine I made. He's like, then, well, can you make me one? And so
Hmm.
kind of that's how we started getting rolling in the business and just like answering just the demand organically for people that wanted to experience some of the same results, right?
Well, of course, I went through 4 years of medical school and quite a few years post educational training. And there are a number of electrolytes, a number of molecules that are absolutely critical throughout the body, sodium, potassium, magnesium, calcium, you know, uh, without these elements, the human body would just shut down. It would not work at all. And yet,
Mhm.
besides telling my patients, drink this number of glasses of water a day or whatever, I have to admit, I'm not sure that I can recall any time where I had a lecture on hydrogen or really studied the effects of hydrogen and in the human body. So please definitely educate me. What is the connection between molecular hydrogen and the human body?
Right, exactly. That's exactly where my mind might next. It's like, okay, wait, if we're getting results from this hydrogen, okay, we narrowed it down from this molecule to hydrogen, and we knew there's like an effective dose that really we start seeing results with. Well, what's going on and how? I mean, there were like the majority of our body is actually made of hydrogen atoms, combined with carbon and oxygen and other atoms, right? And especially water too, right? So there's hydrogen in there, but what process does it serve? What's the working mechanism of there, right? And so it turns out that your body naturally produces between six, well, depending on how healthy your microbiome is in your gut, but between 6 and 12 liters of hydrogen per day.
Wow.
And so, I mean, I first read a while ago it was 6 liters, but then recently more studies have come out saying it's as much as 12 liters a day. And that's a lot. If you mention like a 2 liter bottle of, soda, it's not so big, but 6 of those to 12 liters, that's pretty incredible. So like that's a natural substance that's being created in your body with a healthy, gut microbiome. Um, and then there's also studies that I found that come out of Japan where they're actually measured the breath of centurions,
Hmm.
people older than 100, and have actually, with a focus on hydrogen to see how that may relate in the body, what's going on there. But they've actually measured a higher hydrogen content in their breath of these people that live into the hundreds of years old, not hundreds, but over 100 years old, right? And
Hmm.
so, and also some of the healing waters, those miracle waters that people bathe in they have a higher concentration of hydrogen than normal, and that comes up through the earth and all the processes that go in there. And so you start to see, little pieces of this puzzle that I was putting together as well. And it was like, really interesting going on this journey. Um, but then back to some of the characteristics of the hydrogen, it's the smallest molecule. It's like, it's stable with two hydrogen atoms combined together. We call it H2 for short. It's highly diffusible. You can't store it in a container, a can, or anything, so you can't just bottle it and sell it off the shelf. And so the
Hmm.
only way to really take advantage of it is to produce it on the spot and you be using it on the spot. Um, it doesn't accumulate in your body because it's so diffuse. It just like
Hmm.
passes right through your skin. And so there's no accumulations and there's no measurable toxic effects either.
Hmm.
And it interacts with in almost all your body systems and processes that are also associated with improving health. Um, and
For
so
example, like
yeah, so
mitochondrial function, for
oh,
example.
mitochondrial function and energy metabolism, one of the biggest ones. But one of the first feedbacks we were starting to get from our clients is, "Hey, my joints don't hurt anymore. My knee pain is gone, or my shoulder pain is gone." And so, one of the known benefits of hydrogen is anti-inflammatory. So it reduces pain, It reduces general inflammation and all throughout your body, no matter where the inflammation is. I mean, I can tell testimonials. I mean, so many of our clients that, arthritis pain for 2 years. After 2 months of treatment on the machine, their arthritis pain is gone. All kind of inflammation in the joints pain. I cured, just my body all over from aches and pains in the joints, just consistently breathing hydrogen. But another key point of the hydrogen, how it affects the body is with the mitochondria, which is key, and we're finding studying longevity, anti-aging. It's the energy production of the mitochondria in the cells is key to longevity. And it seems there's a whole theory of aging, how it relates to the mitochondria, and how the degradation and breakdown of the mitochondria and the mitochondrial DNA becoming damaged over time. It makes it harder to produce the energy the body needs for repair, detoxing itself, and just energy for just general everyday activities, and even fighting off diseases that come around. And so with the process of making that ATP molecule in the mitochondria, this hydrogen is a core component almost in there. It's like in that membrane in the mitochondria, the process of removing the electron from the proton, the hydrogen atom, and then recombining it at the end of the Krebs cycle in stage 4 of that. The hydrogen is, you can say, an integral part of that process. And we can also go into deuterium and deuterium depleted water and hydrogen and how that affects the mitochondria, but also hydrogen produced as a result of electrolysis that's either breathed or drank through treated water has less deuterium in there. So there's a whole theory of drinking light water or deuterium depleted water as a treatment for curing all kinds of diseases as well. Another important thing to bring up, besides the inflammation, the energy mitochondria, it's known as a selective antioxidant. And so if your mitochondria cells aren't functioning properly, there's a lot of waste, called the ROS, the reactive oxygen species that cause inflammation and damage. And so because the hydrogen is only reactive with some of those really reactive, dangerous reactive oxygen species, it neutralizes some of those dangers that can cause inflammation, which leads to diseases later on. And so that may be part of the reason why it brings down inflammation in so many ailments and conditions people have having nowadays. Another key component, which it was like really great to witness with my own eyes, is improved circulation. In the process of electrolyzing the water through electrolysis, which produces the gas, a lot of electrons are pumped into the water molecule when it breaks apart into hydrogen and oxygen. So there's a lot of free electrons in there. When you breathe those electrons or drink it in the treated water, it brings back a negative charge to your blood cells. A lot of toxins and diseases nowadays are associated with blood cells that are damaged through toxins or environmental toxins, and they lose their natural ability to hold a negative charge. And when you've got blood cells in there, more common nowadays, microclotting and all this stuff going on, right? So when there's some blood cells that lose their negative charge, in this positive cells, they start stacking. Negative attracts positive, just like a north and south pole of a magnet attract. If you've got all south poles are all not possible, right? Physically, but they repel. Like two south poles of a magnet, they repel. Same with two negative charges, they repel. You can't push them together. And so if that's the case, if all the blood cells, this helps in general with circulation in your blood. If your blood cells can hold that natural negative charge, which is natural for them, they bounce off. They don't stack like pancakes. If you got toxic cells, damaged cells, they're positive. The positive negatives, they start stacking like pancakes and produce microclots in your system. And so theorizing this and seeing some information in this direction, I bought myself a microscope which looks at the nail fold capillaries in your fingernails right here, which you put your finger under there, you can see the actual capillaries in your finger and the blood passing through there. And so I took my microscope out to places to look at people's fingers, to see what's going on with there, comparing them to mine and what's going on. But it was super interesting to see within some of the blood cells in there would be, really dark colored, and not certain in the capillaries would be deformed and very dark, especially compared to mine in my 11-year-old sons too. It's like, wow, I guess this is what they look like. But I started seeing other people like, whoa, they don't look like ours for some reason. Something's going on. But within 10 to 20 seconds of inhaling the hydrogen gas coming out of the machine, you can start to see some of these clots break up. and
Hmm.
the cells start moving. It's like, wow, to witness that, to see a difference and see it over and over again, it's like it's having a real effect that you can witness with your own eyes. It's like as an engineer scientist, I'm like, wow, I see some direct, benefits, but some, what do you call it? Just there's an effect. There's a physical effect you're seeing, right? And so that's,
And
talking about, circulation, which I
yeah.
mean was incredible to see. It just goes to, it proves to myself, hey, something's really going on here. I'm not just making up this stuff. It's not the placebo effect necessarily.
Oh. So
Um,
it really reminds me, there's a framework that underlies functional medicine, which is sometimes referred to as systems biology, and really focuses on sort of physiological systems as opposed to necessarily structural systems, and understanding how these physiological systems interconnect, interact, are interdependent, and that disruptions of one physiological system ultimately affects the balance in other systems, a disruption then of homeostasis that then, if it's persistent, can lead the person down the road to neurodegenerative diseases like Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, and
it,
ALS. And I'm
right, exactly.
mentioning this because we brought up mitochondria, we brought up the gut and microbiome, which I want to circle back round back to in a second.
Hmm.
We brought up circulation, and you did say that the microbes in the gut, the healthier microbes will produce this hydrogen. And we certainly know that in Parkinson's, there is an alteration in the gut microbiome that seems to be part of the story of what underlies Parkinson's in the first place. But
Right,
I'm
right.
I'm curious that, are you also seeing that this hydrogen therapy actually helps create shifts in the microbiome itself? Or maybe you haven't looked at that yet, but we have this
Um,
term dysbiosis, meaning
mhm.
a pathological imbalance in the microbiome versus, and I'll make up this word, but it's a good word, eubiosis, right? Balance, harmony. Um, Curious if we could look at it, what you know about this from a sort of a systems perspective, given
Right,
that
right.
circulation and mitochondrial are improved. Surely things like it improves the gut microbiome and improves your immune system.
Right, right. Well, improving the immune system is a byproduct of just helping the body on a cellular level. It has more energy to heal itself, right?
Right.
Um, but yeah, to mention a few more points on the gut and the microbiome and how that works. There's some recent studies that came out very, very, very recent. I saw a talk recently on how there's certain bacterias in your gut that produce hydrogen. A lot of those bacteria, they feed on fiber.
Mhm.
So you probably heard that a high fiber diet is correlated with less risk of cancer, right? I've heard that saying, and many people have. Well, they don't say, well, I'm like, why? Fiber doesn't like, make cancer go. There's got to be, what's the missing link right there, right? And my opinion is that it's the hydrogen, because the bacteria that eat the fiber produce hydrogen, and that hydrogen helps your entire system on a systemic level, your whole body. But to mention this paper I was about to mention, what happens as people get older, it's not necessarily you're missing that bacteria that produces the hydrogen. There's other bacteria that actually consume hydrogen.
Hmm.
And so they diminish. So it was like there was a kind of a wow moment for me to realize this, but it's not necessarily you're missing the right bacteria, but you may have too much of a bad bacteria that's grown over time due to a bad diet that is eating the hydrogen that the good bacteria is producing in an excessive amount, where you're not benefiting from the excess hydrogen that the perfect gut biome would be producing for your, health, general health,
So it
right?
feeds into itself, and certainly it's kind of reminiscent. There's a very serious disease. It has a high mortality rate called C. diff colitis or pseudomembranous colitis, and this is basically an overabundance of a bacteria in the colon
Hmm.
that can produce such severe dehydration and bleeding and so forth that older adults who get C. diff colitis are more likely to die than not. And we know this is often caused by overuse of antibiotics. But the point
Right.
that a lot of folks don't realize is C. diff is not an infection. Like we all have C. difficile bacterium in our colon. It's not that we're infected with C. diff, is that we killed off all the good stuff and we left that C. diff to grow and multiply and take over. So I'm just using
Right.
that as an analogy, but
It's
saying
about
that
finding that balance, the right
find the
balance of the
balance.
perfect bacteria in there to the probiotics to make us healthy, to maintain our health. And I did
Yeah.
find some studies that linking gut health to Parkinson's. There's a link there. I don't understand exactly what it is, but it could be some of these things that we're bringing up in this conversation.
It most certainly there most certainly is a connection. Um, for folks, these fiber, among other things, allows bacteria to produce butyrates, which are short chain fatty acids, and then butyrates make their way to the brain, where they have an impact on all kinds of molecular processes that are
Mm.
tied into degenerative diseases. But it's clear from what you're saying that not only do we need these butyrates, but we need hydrogen as part of the mix.
Right, right, exactly. That's where a lot of the research is pointing to nowadays. But to mention one more thing that is key also, as all these systems in your body are coming online, it increases your mental sharpness. And I've noticed that in myself, other clients, in some of the results of that are more lucid dreams, more focus, better concentration, and just being more productive in general. And so that mental sharpness is a result of all these it could be the better mitochondrial function as well, because the neurons in your brain have the most highly concentrated population of mitochondria, right? In all human cells, I think other than the human sperm cells are the only cells that have
Mm.
more mitochondria than the nerves in the brains. So anything that benefits the mitochondria is going to benefit, the brain in those cases, right? And so the hydrogen seems to jumpstart a lot of healing in the body in a systemic way, a lot of the healing processes. Um,
Do you
and,
think that in some respects we could make an argument that, and this is purely speculation, so I'm just not looking
Mhm.
necessarily for data unless you have it, but that you can make an argument that one of the factors that then contributes to chronic disease is the lack of hydrogen, or if we are effectively natural hydrogen producers in certain respects through the microbiome, and we just got this sort of epidemic of dysbiosis from industrialization, our food supply, the chemicals, et cetera, et cetera. Uh, are we sort of restoring a homeostasis by introducing molecular oxygen?
Molecular hydrogen, yes, I mean, of course.
Molecular hydrogen, I meant to say, yeah.
Right, but yeah, that's what a lot of studies are pointing to, and it's becoming more and more apparent, and they're finding more and more pathways or triggers or relationships and how it interacts with the cell. It modulates so many processes on a cellular level that we weren't aware of before, and we're finding more and more mechanisms in how that works. So it's much more uh, important and than we realized, previously. Um, and so if you want, I can talk about some of my clients that have used machines that have had neurological disorders and just give you the feedback or that they've passed on to me, if you like to
Love to
hear,
hear
right?
about it. Yeah, love to hear about it.
Yeah, so I've got, three, clients come to mind, and I've wrote a few notes here that I'll mention off what they've told me. And so one of them that actually is treating her mother for Parkinson's. She's like the primary caretaker. She noticed that her mother has more energy, mind seems more clear and responsive. The time from sitting up to getting up is less. She says she started doing more around the house. It's like she's made her bed, which is like, hasn't happened in a while. Seems like something, significant. And there's also a caregiver, like a nurse that comes to visit, and she's noticed too that the caregiver is giving, more positive feedback, noticing improvements. More clear thinking, in speaking, less confusion, more responsive. If nothing else, her condition has stabilized and is not getting worse.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, so that's one particular one. It's all, and this is like feedback in general. I mean, there's like a lot of people notice, their brain working better that are just on hydrogen for other reasons, or just or even athletes. I mean, many people just notice a sharpness and better meditation and focus, right? Um, Another like a family member that doesn't have Parkinson's, but has I think what they call essential tremors. Are you familiar with that? You should be right. It's like I think it's 8 times more common than Parkinson's, and sometimes misdiagnosed. But I noticed they had, shaky hands at one point, right? And that's one of the symptoms of the essential tremors. And so and this person started using the machine. And so I checked back a few months later. I was like, what's going on with, are you still using the machine? And how are your hands doing that shakiness? Because he was doing it just for general health. He didn't
Hmm.
know, but he's like, now that you mentioned it, he's like, it's like I've noticed the shaking is less when I breathe the hydrogen more frequently. And so it's
Hmm.
getting better. So it's a direct correlation. He's like, when I go away for a while, I'm traveling, I'm doing less of the hydrogen. And so I notice some of the shakiness comes back. So there's a direct correlation with, it's a neurological, I think, disorder, the way I understand it. And so there's a direct correlation there with, hey, when I breathe it, the shakiness goes away. When I, stop, it comes back.
That's
And so,
great.
yeah. And then one other case to mention, let's see, it was yes, one other practitioner mentioned that as she was treating patients, she noticed a significant improvement with leg tremors in the patient, which stopped for extended periods of time when they were breathing the hydrogen. Just felt much better in general in the mornings and just moving more freely without stumbling.
So you breathe it for a certain period of time, but then its effects sort of last beyond the time that you're breathing it.
Right, right. What I noticed is like it's an exponential drop off with the effects. Like after a week, if your body was really lacking it and needing it and can use it, the effects really diminish off after a week. I noticed when I'm away or stop using it too, I'm like I might start dragging myself. I mean, before
Hmm.
I was on it, I was like just dragging in the morning and afternoons. I needed naps and just like just just hard to get going. But now when I'm consistently on it, no naps. I sleep great, wake up in the morning like I'm ready to go, like I've drank coffee already or something like that. And so it's subtle but powerful, because
Nice.
it's a gradual ramp up and just feeling good and better. And it's not something like a magic pill, but it allows your body to be more of itself and to have the energy levels that you would normally have if your body and systems were working correctly, right?
So in medical treatment, uh, there are two sort of broad categories. There's symptoms management. If you have a cold and you have a fever or
Mhm.
whatever, and you take
Right,
some
right,
Tylenol, and it doesn't treat the virus that's caused your cold, but
right,
it
right.
brings down your fever. Symptoms management, and then what we call disease modifying therapy, where the treatment actually has some impact on the factors that are driving the disease. Now, of course, we're not trying to make claims that hydrogen therapy is a proven disease modifying therapy for Parkinson's, but
Right,
what
right.
you are saying is that there is scientific evidence because of its influence on things like the mitochondria, on the immune system, on blood flow and the vasculature, that it may well possibly have some disease modifying therapy ability. But then, in addition, there's symptomatic management, as I mentioned. So, people with Parkinson's, you've alluded to tremor by talking about essential tremor. An essential tremor, by the way, is very, very common, but the prevalence of essential tremor is even more common among people with Parkinson's, and that's separate from the tremor at rest that characterizes Parkinson's. They may have
Mhm.
changes in posture, in balance, and have problems with falling. They do have cardiovascular issues with loss of the sympathetic nervous system input to their heart. So it disrupts their autonomic nervous system. They can have drops in their blood pressure when they stand up. So we're talking about ways in which hydrogen therapy may specifically help people with Parkinson's. We've already talked about possibly improving tremor, improving energy levels and focus, improving sleep quality, I'm hearing. Given some of the other things I'm mentioning, have you observed other areas where hydrogen therapy has improved some Parkinson's symptoms?
Um, yeah, but I wrote down a couple key points to do with say mental and neural benefits of hydrogen, because that's our focus here around Parkinson's and neurological disorders. But in pulling and extracting some of the information I pulled out of some of these research paper and studies, we can say that it improves the neurotransmitter levels. So hydrogen therapy can positively influence the neurotransmitter balance, particularly with dopamine, which may alleviate, these motor symptoms that people are experiencing, right? Um, Also, in studies, it shows that it enhances of cognitive function, which we've experienced this firsthand in a lot of these studies are showing as well. It has neuroprotective effects, on the nerves, um, by reducing oxidative stress and inflammation in the brain as well. This also slows the, cognitive decline in patients with neurological disorders. There's also studies that indicate that it promotes neurogenesis, which is the creation of new neurons.
Hmm.
And so that's, so there are real studies pointing to that they corroborate some of the effects we're seeing, right?
Hmm.
And because hydrogen is such a safe gas to work with as far as breathing and for your body, and we found it's natural to the body, it's easy to experiment and gather a lot of these we call it just testimonials from clients. It's not like a very unique drug that needs to be tested. It's almost like a vitamin in a supplement. And so it's easy to get feedback from clients and patients, experiment with this because, we have so many people experimenting with it. And so we can see some of these results. Um, but also to back up a little bit is, there's more than just, Parkinson's and neurological disorders. It helps with. As you dig into the research, I found more than 2,000 papers have now been published on hydrogen as it relates to health.
Hmm.
Um, and over 150 papers I found that have been published specifically, I know, specifically on how hydrogen relates to neurological conditions and neurology and the science and how there's benefits in there. Um, there's a couple, like four quick, like, scientific studies that I can mention too, if you want to hear, right?
Please. Yeah, I'd love to hear.
Okay, so there was a hydrogen kind of symposium not too long ago by the Molecular Hydrogen Institute, which I participated in. And some of the speakers there were like just like up to date on the studies and what's going on in some of the research. But this one doctor, Dr. Sergey Ostekic, I think you pronounce the name. He showed that hydrogen is a modulator for brain metabolism. It was a 2023 study in Korea that adults ages 40 to 60 years old on 4 weeks of hydrogen inhalation. The results being, dementia, brain related biomarkers significantly improved during the treatment. The total intracellular reactive oxygen species decreased, improved mood, anxiety, and other measurable biomarkers. And so he concluded, or it suggests that the hydrogen improves brain cell functionality by upregulating the metabolism of short-term fatty acids. So that
Hmm.
was a 2023 study, not too long ago. There was a 2018 pilot study published in Movement Disorders. They talk about a lot of Parkinson's conditions there. They found that hydrogen gas inhalation was effective in reducing oxidative stress and improving motor function in patients with Parkinson's disease. That was published in 2018.
Nice.
Another holistic nutritionist studying hydrogen therapy for Parkinson's. She said it works by enhancing cellular communication, helping to prevent the breakdown of dopamine pathways, essential for motivation, pleasure, and adrenal production. One last study to mention here was done in 2018 by Dr. Kono at Deno University. It's a multi-center trial, randomized, double-blinded, placebo-controlled with 178 participants across 14 hospitals. What do you call those special scores in Alzheimer's? The UPDRS scores, right? They were noted at various checkpoints throughout the trial, and all suggesting that long-term consumption of hydrogen water could lead to sustained benefits in managing Parkinson's disease symptoms.
Yes. Oh, that's excellent. It's good to
So those
know.
are some, four quick studies I pulled out that are, we're worth mentioning here. They're significant.
The journal Movement Disorders is actually the sort of preeminent journal of the International Movement Disorder
Mhm.
Association. And in fact, was just, we're recording now, it's October, we're making this recording, but my team and I were present at the international conference that just took place in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania a few weeks ago. That's the International
Wow.
Congress of Parkinson's and Movement Disorders, with thousands of people there. But the journal that comes out from the Movement Disorder Society is called Movement Disorders. So that's
Right.
like saying you publish in the New England Journal of Medicine, and it's not
Hmm.
easy, to publish in something like that. So
Yeah,
that
yeah.
says a lot for the quality of the study that
Mhm.
was
Some of the
published.
studies, right, exactly. And so the question comes up, it's like, why are these hydrogen therapies more common? So I wanted to think about that. People ask me that. So, well, what if this is so good? Why aren't more people doing it? Why isn't it more prevalent? And I think
Yeah.
well, it is becoming more prevalent. It's starting to get out there. It's still fairly new, but not many people know about it. And some doctors are reluctant to try new treatments that they haven't been trained on or they haven't studied, back in school and the residency and interns, right? And
Hmm.
so it's kind of new to them, so they don't want to, get into something that new or cutting edge. But it takes time for these technologies to be adopted with agreed upon protocols. And so every health treatment goes through, a process, and so hydrogen's on its way. But because it is so safe and effective and just innovasive to the body and natural, there's very little potential risks involved, if any. I haven't come across any potential risks or toxic side effects at all. I mean, for myself, I've breathed it overnight for over 3 years. I mean, 8 hours overnight. I
Hmm.
don't, but I just as an experiment with myself. I'm the number one guinea pig, and nothing but benefits. I'll come off it sometimes, but there's no side effects to it, and so which is
So just for clarification, the H2 Genesis generator adds hydrogen, say, to water or produces hydrogen so you can breathe it,
correct.
correct? And
Mhm.
are there other ways that people might experience hydrogen therapy? Or are those the main two?
Those are the main two, but we also sell on our website we call a bag or a sleeve that the gas doesn't so easily pass through. And so I had a torn rotator cuff in my shoulder here 2 years. I tried all different alternative therapies, including ozone
Hmm.
injections, pulse electromagnetic therapy, um, platelet-rich plasma, I think it's called, right? Injections as well.
Hmm.
And it wouldn't go away. But I noticed when I connected the hose from the machine producing hydrogen to a silicone cup and put it on there, it felt better, right? And so I
Hmm.
said, so what I'm to do is making a sleeve, attaching it here with a hose and here. And so it made a sleeve over my shoulder. I put a little hose inside to where it would expand with the hydrogen. Um, 3 nights, well, 3 treatments every 3 days, overnight, you're laying still and it's gone away. I mean, it's like incredible. And so, a sprained ankle, I mean, joints. And so, if people have really bad joints for whatever reason, diffusing through the skin by bagging your hand, a sleeve on your elbow, your shoulder, or your knee, that really concentrates it. And I think what it's doing is, because it does improve circulation, those joints, there's not a whole lot of blood vessels inside your joints, right? There's like cartilage in there. There's not a whole lot of blood circulating in there. And so what it does is it maximizes what blood can be delivered into those joints. It gets in there.
Hmm.
Both the oxygen and hydrogen. And so when it could get more nutrients in there, detox what's going on bad, your body can heal itself faster. So it's just an enabler to some degree, right? So your body can naturally heal itself in the way it was meant to be.
I have one application in my mind, and I don't know if it's been done or if it's really practical, but sort of a variation of drinking it,
Mhm.
which would be bathing in
Mhm.
hydrogenated water.
Yeah,
Because your
that's
skin is
also
your
done as
biggest
well.
organ. Yeah.
Right, yeah, exactly. And there are systems where it creates micro nanobubbles of hydrogen, much more expensive, and but people do that. You just, especially some biohackers that want to try every, known way to do it.
Mm.
Another friend of mine did it through what do you call it? Insufflation, right? And he
Don't
said,
don't try this at home.
yeah, yeah,
Like do this. I want to be cautious,
yeah.
but I know a lot of folks are interested in these sort of approaches.
Right, right. So he said it worked, but it was like it's not worth the time because you get 80 to 90% of the benefits from breathing it. It goes directly
Hmm.
to your brain when you're inhaling it and direct into your lungs, into your circulation, which gets you through your body really quickly. And so there are other ways of delivery, like when you're drinking the water, and bagging your joints. But other
Hmm.
than those, everything you're getting like minimal benefit for the amount of work that goes into it. I mean, it's incredibly easy just to sit down on a couch or chair, lay down, put on the cannula and hit the on switch, and that's it.
So
I mean,
walk me very practical. Okay. I want to buy one of these devices from you, right? You
Mhm.
now have commercialized the H2 Genesis device. How how do I use it? Do I buy it? You talk about breathing it all night long. So it's just a cannula. You mentioned a cannula, and I'm going to go to sleep because I still need oxygen, right? I'm still breathing air. I still need.
Right, right. So if I have a cannula right here, I can show people. And so this is my routine at night. As I go to lay down to bed or I wake up in the morning, sometimes I'll just flip on that ear, nose. I hit the on switch and I'm good. Sometimes I do this in front of the computer while working, just relaxing, or when I come home from a really rough day at town running errands and just feel beat, it re-energizes you as well. But it's simple as putting this on and then hitting the button. And we've got two different machines. One produces what's called Brown's gas with a watery solution, electrolyte medium. The other uses a proton exchange membrane where the oxygen and hydrogen come out different ports on the machine. And so there are two styles of producing hydrogen. Both are equally as beneficial, and because of a preference there. But I find it easier than taking vitamins or pills or supplements because, okay, I need a measuring spoon. Where's my container? I got to mix it
Hmm.
with water and doing all this stuff. It's multiple steps. But I found that the hydrogen therapy is like fewer steps, so easy to use. And when it's easy to use, people are more likely to do it, right? And keep up with it.
And you're still getting the air, you're still getting the oxygen, you're
Right,
just
right.
adding more hydrogen into the mix. Are there any, like, the reality is some people have chronic lung disease, some people have congestive heart failure, chronic, heart disease. Are there any situations where hydrogen therapy might be at very minimum discuss this with your doctor first, make sure it's safe for you? Or is this just
Mhm.
we're not aware of
Yeah.
any safety issues at
Yeah,
all?
there's definitely one that has come up, and possibly two. I'll mention this right now, but that's a really good question. Um, and the main reason is kind of I alluded to it before. It helps reduce blood clots, microclots. So if people have very viscous blood, a high D-dimer score on their blood test, and the doctors put them on blood thinners, this will make their blood even thinner.
Hmm.
And so I've had several clients that just after a few days of breathing it, they do a test on their, the blood test, send it to the doctor, say, whoa, what are you doing? Because your blood is like way too, thin. I don't understand the
Hmm.
technical terminology, but the doctor says like, well, you either got to stop the hydrogen or stop the medication.
Hmm.
So and normally those clients, patients go two different directions. They get scared by their doctor into stopping the hydrogen, or they say, hey, well, maybe I don't need these pills after all if I just do the hydrogen. So they wean themselves off of the pills and they find they don't need them anymore. One of my really good friends during the COVID times, he collapsed on the floor, blood clots. You can see the veins in his arm just all, they're popping out, just red. They're like bruised almost. The wife found him on the floor. They blood clots. What was it? 60% of his body was clotted and a 30% enlarged heart. Doctor put on
Hmm.
thinners. He said he was going to be on the rest of his life. About 6 months after that, I caught up with him and I said, Mike, you got to I got to send you one of these machines. I think it'll help. 2 months later, he goes back, just the whole body's, he got off the thinners, right? Really quickly. 2 months later,
Hmm.
full body scan, MRI or CAT scans, whatever he's doing. He's like this. He's like, everything's fine. It's like, what do you do? It's all gone 2 months later. He's like, no, on
Hmm.
no medications right now. So that's one condition. Be careful if you're on blood thinners. You might want to wean yourself off or let your doctor know so you can adjust for that, right? Um, the second case where hydrogen may be a little caution may be permitted is if there's a bacterial infection, maybe a bladder infection, because bacteria have mitochondrial, you know,
Yeah,
organelles also,
mitochondria.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so and so like, unlike viruses, which don't, this has a tendency to help with any viral conditions. It
Hmm.
helps with colds and flus and that type of thing. It's more obvious there. The bacterial infections, where if the actual hydrogen is benefiting the mitochondrial, benefiting the bacterial cells more, that's a little questionable. Um, and so if it's a really severe case, another a friend recently reminded me, he got bit by a dog. Well, dog saliva has really toxic bacteria in there. And so that infection wasn't going away. And so rather than bag his hand so it would heal faster, he was like, we got to make sure that infection is gone because we don't want to enhance or make that bacteria any stronger than it already is. And so you want to get rid of any bacterial infections first before you go on to the hydrogen, or get off of it for a while before you get back on it. But what I
Any
find in my
impact? Go ahead, please.
but what I found in my own health is that my immune system is like through the roof. I get sick less now than ever before. And that could
Nice.
be a combination of things, but I definitely notice a difference just on the hydrogen. Your immune system improves. So you're less likely to get, flus and colds, and at least they're very less difficult to get over. They're like just a few sneezes and it's gone. Your body responds more quickly.
And any impact on blood pH? That would be my only concern otherwise.
Um, Not very, very little, if any at all. And I think yeah, not anything significant whatsoever. And I think the only impact it would have, if there was some, is because when you are breathing, the gas that's coming out of the machine is 66% hydrogen and 33% oxygen, because we're breaking up the water molecule, and there's benefits to the both gases, hydrogen and
Oh,
oxygen. And so you're getting just 1% more oxygen than breathing the 21% oxygen that's in air normally. And so if you breathe a lot of oxygen, or too much, that'll change the pH of your body and blood and actually prevent the absorption of oxygen and utilization of oxygen. But other than that, I mean, which is like really insignificant, but it's just something to note, right? But in general, no, it
yeah.
doesn't change the pH of the water that's been treated or the pH in your blood or in your body.
Okay, so Ben, so I want to get an H2 Genesis machine for sure. How do I do that? Walk me through that. And do you have support through your company? So once I purchase that, I'm not like, oh, I got a machine, I don't know what to do with it. Tell me
Right, right, right.
how it works.
Right. Our website, kind of I come from the biohacker background, right? It's called h2biohacker.com. And so at the time I wrote the website, I gathered all the best information I can find out everywhere on the internet. And I've got over 1,000 studies on one of our pages. So people that want like studies, they can find those there. But I condensed all the information down into a really digestible format, I think. And we've got some testimonials there on our website as well, in order to just get this information out there. So people can visit our website, learn more. We've also on our website, you can sign up for a free 30-minute consultation, because we've gathered a pretty large database or knowledge base of say protocols and testimonials, just working with hundreds and hundreds of clients over the years, so that we have an idea of what works and what treatment or use case could best serve for what health condition you may or ailment you may have. And so that's why we offer a 30-minute, free consultation, just to introduce the client to hydrogen and how it may be able to help them in their situation. You can sign up for that on our website. If you're ready to purchase, you can go to our website and purchase as well. And we ship from the Atlanta, US, all over the world. And we've got, setup videos, and we're available for continued support calls. And because some people, they just have questions, how do you do this, or how do you do that, or so we're available and we answer the phone when people call.
And
Um,
should I have a technical issue with my device, I can reach out to you.
hmm,
You warranty
yeah.
them and all that.
Oh, yeah, yeah. In most cases, 99% of the time, we just talking over the phone, we can get any issues like a connection is loose, or just push this in hard or something like that. Um, but yeah, we've got a money back guarantee, as well as a warranty on parts and services. But and then even then, it's any parts that could break down, they're very easy to replace. So we can do that easily, because if it's taken care of and the manual and the maintenance procedures are followed, the machine should last a lifetime. And so it's an investment in your health. But what I've seen other people spend on health these days, compared to what this cost and what it can do for people, it's like it's a no-brainer. Every when I first got into it, it's like, oh my God, this is unbelievable how helpful and beneficial it is that everyone needs to have one of these in their house one day. I mean, it saves my friends and
Yeah.
family in so many conditions or situations that have come up. It's like everyone needs one of these, and to be able to share it with others as well.
I think I want to
One other
hook it
thing
up to my sink, and so when I
that
pour water, it just comes out hydrogenated.
Right, right. We've got one in our kitchen that's running a few hours a day, just keeping a glass pitcher of water, just treated. So we just pour out of that and just, drink that all day. And got one in the bedroom, one in the living room, one in the kitchen. So it's like we're all drinking water and breathing it, in our house.
That's
One other
wonderful.
thing to mention, we've got a special coupon or discount for doctors' talks, attendees too. So if you add a machine to your shopping cart, go to checkout, there's a little place to put a discount code in there. If you put in Doctor Talks, all one word, you'll get a nice big special discount there.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, Ben Tometa, folks have been following along this really informative interview. The creator of H2 Genesis molecular hydrogen generators. You want to go check out the website, learn all about it, watch the videos, get your 30-minute consult, and give it a shot. It sounds like there's tremendous potential for benefit in helping people with Parkinson's. And this is just another example of a solution you just don't hear about in your doctor's office. It's h2biohackers.com.
Biohacker, no S.
No S, h2biohacker.com. So check it out and use the coupon code Dr. Talks to get your discount for being a part of the Parkinson Solutions Summit. Ben Tometa, thank you so much for spending time explaining, educating, and really for being an inventor because, we need folks like you out there thinking about problem solving and coming up with solutions to help all of us.
Right. Yeah. Thanks for the opportunity to share this knowledge of hydrogen out there with your audience. I appreciate that too.
My pleasure. We'll look forward to visiting with you again very, very soon.